Thank you so much. How many of you knew this? Christmas is coming. Yeah. How many have the lights up? Do you? Here's the secret. Put them up in July. Yes. You know, our kids used to wake us on Christmas Day and pounce on us about 4 a.m. And I'd just say, go back to bed, it's October. Christmas was a magical time for us when I was a kid. There were always so many kids around. In those days, I mean, moms had dozens of children. They just did, it seemed. You could barely open a car door without hitting one of them. You'd step out your front door, during Christmas, and there are about 130 kids standing in parkas saying, let's go. My mom had 5 kids. She gave birth to me when she was 40. True. She was just getting started. 2 ladies came to me after I spoke somewhere at a family event. They said, you know what? They were arguing. And one said, see if you can help us. You mentioned that your mother had children had you at 40, and I don't think mothers should have children after 35. And I said, I just agree with you. 35 is a lot of children, don't you think? And they started to laugh. It was cool to watch them go together, away from there, laughing. Kids love Christmas. I love to be with my kids and their kids at Christmas. We had 3 kids in 3 years. The anesthetic from the first birth was still working for the third. They came along that fast. But they're a lot of work. We got parents here. I know, we used to see this beautiful sign at Comfort Inn. We'd take our kids there, and they'd coming past Comfort Inn, we'd see this sign, kids stay free. And so we would just take them in, drop them off, leave them there. We'll pick them up next Tuesday. Thank you for your special. How cool. When our kids were small, it wouldn't stop snowing one Christmas week, and we were stuck indoors. And I learned some stuff about kids at that point. I learned that you need a good sense of humor and no sense of smell when it comes to kids. I learned that the Darth Vader Lego character will successfully pass through the digestive tract of a 4-year-old. It's true. Parents, don't worry. It's going to be okay. I learned that a single pane window will not stop a baseball hit by a ceiling fan. I learned that when you hear a flushing sound followed by the words, uh-oh, it's too late. Just get on with your lives. Do something else. I learned to always look in the oven before you turn it on, because you never know what will be in the oven. When you got little kids, you never know who will be in the oven. So be careful. Well, Christmas is all about family. And I'm going to show you a picture of my family up here, okay? You'll be able to see certain ones of them. Jeff is the one in the striped shirt. He's a great kid. You'd love him. But Jeff, he came home one day. He was, I think, 17, maybe 18. He said to my wife, he said, Mom, he said, I want to get married, but I want to bring home 3 girls, and you have to guess which one it is. What? So he did. He brought 3 beautiful girls into our home, sat them on the sofa, began to converse with my wife, and finally, enough, Mom, just guess which one it is. She pointed right at the one in the middle, her. How did you know, Mom? She said, because I don't like her. And it's not true. We love this girl very much. Raylyn is her name. And Rachel, my daughter on the right, she was 15 when she put a beautiful Bible verse on her bedroom door, Psalm 56:1, have mercy on me, O God, for men hotly pursue me. And she did, and they did. And finally one of them caught her. Jordan is an amazing pastor. And over on the left is Steve and Dallas. They were 30 when they met. We had prayed for a strong gal for Stephen, and God has a sense of humor. He met this girl. She's a world record holding power lifter. And it's true. She squats like thousands of pounds. I don't know what it is. It's ridiculous. And I said to her, Dallas, I said, I do diddly squats. Does that count? And she said it doesn't. So anyway, there you go. But she carried our son over the threshold recently. A wonderful thing. I now have grandchildren. I know I don't look old enough, but we had to get a special permit, and here we are now with grandchildren. I love the job description for a grandpa. Be goofy, be godly, carry gummy bears. That's about it, right? Taste-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, fat-free gummy bears. That's what you need to give them these days. And and when you set your grandkids down, just try to remember where you put them. That's about it. That's all you need to know. They call me Bumpa. Andre just turned 9. When he was 8, he looked at me one day, he said, "Grandpa, you're bald." As if I did not know this. This came as news to me. I had no idea that my hair had gone underground and was coming out my ears and my nose and stuff. But it's important that you know I don't have trouble growing hair, but location is everything with hair. I am like a struggling oil company. I have great production, but poor distribution. It's growing, just not in the right places. Grandpa, he said to me, Andre, "You're bald." And then he said, "You look extinguished." Extinguished. Grandkids, I love it. They are at the age where you can tell them jokes and they start to get them. Christmas jokes. The genie asked Aladdin, "What would you like for Christmas?" And Aladdin says, "A fur coat." I was telling this to my granddaughter. And Aladdin says, "A fur coat." And the genie says, "What fur?" And Aladdin says, "Fur to keep me warm." That's what fur. And she was about, an inch and a half tall. She was just very small. And she's looking at me, and she started to smile and grin, and she let out a little chuckle. And she thought, there's got to be a joke in there somewhere. I think I'll maybe understand it years later. But she said to me, "Bumpa, you're funny." She said, "I'm going to keep you." Isn't that cool? Oh, man. Well, it is that time of year when everyone has a Christmas special, so why not laugh again? Why not us? The Flintstones have a Christmas special. It's true. Have you thought about this? According to producers, the period setting was 126 million years before Jesus came to earth. What were the Flintstones doing celebrating Christmas 126 million years early? I don't know. But I love Christmas. The food, the turkey, the pumpkin pies, the bowls of mixed nuts, the laying on of Christmas dinner. Loved it. But this is a time of year when people worry. Did we get enough gifts? Did we get enough food? Will relatives get along or be a pain in the rumpus room like last year? We worry this. We worry what we will eat between Christmas and New Year's. We really should worry about what we eat between New Year's and Christmas, right? This Christmas, for the first time ever, we are worried about what to buy 14 grandkids. 14 grandkids. I said to my wife, "How about batteries?" "What?" "Yeah, wrap them up under the tree. We'll put them under the tree with a note that says, 'Toys not included.'" We can do that. If you see us, and you know that we have a lot of kids around. But if you buy this many kids a toy and a Snickers bar, you're going to be broke. So what do? This year I thought, I'm going to make them wooden toys, right? A little shop. But the problem is I lack the talent and the tools, and I don't know if you've seen the price of wood lately. Wood has gone up. Wood is 3 times the price it used to be. Apparently wood is quite popular now. I went to buy a few sticks of wood to help me spruce up my garden shed. Come on, are you guys still okay? Yeah? But my credit card limit was only $15,000. Stumped. I logged on to my shavings account. Come on, not enough. So I visited our branch for a mortgage. See, you either love puns or you can't stand them, and we've got both. Sorry if I sound like I'm pining away for better times, but we will not stand for this, will we? So, anyway, back to the good stuff. So Ramona and I recorded some of their favorite stories. We did. We put them down on audio. I provided the silliness, and Ramona did the music. She plays flute, and the girl is good. And I say this humbly, we rocked. The grandkids can listen to us rock for decades after we are gone. So here's my idea. Let's declare this and every year a toy shortage Christmas. Does anyone agree with me? One in which we unplug. We forget the stuff a little more and celebrate the Savior. No? Yeah? Okay. In the United Kingdom, this actually happened. A girl had a hamster, and she had it in a cage, but it was just leaning against the side of the cage. It was just stuck there. For 3 days, it would not move. And it was alive, it was blinking, but finally, she and her mother took this hamster in the cage to the vet. And the vet looked at it, examined it a bit, pulled it out, it was alive, put it on the table, and it began kind of running around in circles. It was wobbling a little bit. The vet picked it up and opened the hamster's mouth and pulled out a fridge magnet. A fridge magnet. Pulled it out. Apparently, that hamster had gotten onto the floor, run around, and scarfed up a fridge magnet and spent 3 days stuck to the side of its cage due to its magnetic personality. There it was. I was reading that story in a British newspaper, and I got thinking, you know what? That's sort of me lately. I'm a little like that hamster because I think I've swallowed the wrong stuff. Do that, and we're stuck. The life and the joy is sucked out of our bodies. So I'd like to offer you 3 magnets, if you will. 3 things that can pull us in the right direction. 3 pillars to stand on when anxiety and fear threaten to ruin everything. 3 pillars that offer hope, peace, and great joy. Many of you taking notes here, I sense. Not a single one of you is. Okay, here we go. And the first is God's presence. God's presence. A little boy was waiting for the Christmas program to start, and he was very impatient. Loudly, he asked his dad, "What time does Jesus get here?" In a church with all these people around. Well, he wasn't the first one to ask this question. Maybe you wonder that today. Where is God? And you're not alone. When the Babylonians ransacked Jerusalem and carted the people off to Babylon, they asked that question, where's the promised Messiah? Alexander the Great and his armies wiped their boots on the promised land, and the people waited. The Greek king Epiphanes turned God's temple in Jerusalem into a worship center for the sky and thunder god Zeus. And next came the horrors of the Roman army, and people waited. And then, Galatians 4 tells us, when the time had fully come, God sent His Son, born of a woman. As Christians, we celebrate the coming of God's Son, our Savior. But He often seems to get lost in the hurry and the worry. Years ago, my parents lived with us in a suite that we built for them. One Christmas, we bought them a microwave, and they were excited. I plugged the thing in for them and told them briefly how to do it and handed them this thick manual, this instruction manual, and they stared at it, and I was gone for a few minutes. I'm sure they did their best, but my dad set that thing on 99 minutes on high, and I think he would have melted the coffee mug or something. But I smelled something cooking, and I knocked on their door, and my mom smiled, and she just put her arm around me, gave me a hug. She said, "I just needed my son to come along." Well, thank God that when He gave us the gift of salvation, He did not send us some confusing manual. He sent His Son, Jesus. One guy loved hanging enormous strings of lights on his house. One year above the garage, he spelled out with these lights, Emmanuel, God with us. And a neighbor stopped by. He'd lost his wife the previous Christmas. And he stood there and he looked up at that, Emmanuel, God with us. And the tears came. Through the tears, he read those words, he smiled, and he says, "It's going to be all right." Our God is not a distant deity, my friends. He has suffered. He weeps. He is with you in your pain. So this Christmas, we celebrate and spread the greatest message to hit this planet, Emmanuel, God with us. It's going to be all right. God says, "Fear not, for I am with you." He is in the middle of whatever is happening, has happened, and will happen to us. God's presence. The second great pillar beneath us is God's sovereignty. I can hardly talk with anyone these days who doesn't express deep discontent or worry about where culture is headed. Where do you turn in times like this? The Bible never tells us to be of good fear. Instead, it tells us to fear not, about 365 times. And I need to remember that each and every day. What do you fear? I think that little hamster knows that what we place at the center will feed fear or feed faith. What do you put at the very core of your life? Maybe you say, how can He be sovereign when so much is wrong? It's a fair question. 1,000 books have been written on the topic, but the final chapter hasn't really been written. Everything's going to be all right in the end, my friend. So if it's not all right, it's not the end. A guy was headed home for Christmas. He was on an airplane, and seated beside him was a little girl he hadn't met. And she was reading a book. And the turbulence started, and people screamed, and they prayed. And this little girl was buckled in, and she had her legs kind of wrapped up underneath her a little bit. And she was reading this book while people were freaking out all over the place. Adults scared to death. Yet worry and fear had no place in her. This guy couldn't help but look at her and wonder, what in the world? Finally, they bounced to a halt, and the plane came to the gate, and he looked at her, and he just said, "That was awful turbulence." She said, "Yeah." He said, but you were fine." She said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, how come?" And she said, "My daddy is the pilot, and he's taken me home." Storms, has one entered your life, darkening the horizon, tossing you around? Focus on this. We have a pilot who has never missed a runway in all of history. Hebrews 1:3 says he sustains all things. Proverbs 21:30, no human wisdom or understanding or plan can stand against the Lord. Isaiah 46:10, my counsel shall stand, and I will accomplish all my purpose. The Jesus of the manger is risen, seated at God's right hand, interceding for you. Nothing can get to you that won't get past him first. Yes, the world is broken, but heaven's throne is occupied, and all is well. So remember God's presence, God's sovereignty, and the third pillar, God's grace. True story. Charlie was only 10. His family was spending Christmas in the English countryside, and Charlie loved trading the blackened streets of London for the snow-covered hills. And one day his mother invited him to go for a drive. So he climbed into the car, wide-eyed and excited. Tires crunched the snow, and Charlie smiled. But as this heavy snow fell all around, his mother wasn't smiling. The car snaked its way down a winding road, and as they took a curve, they plunged into a ditch. The tires spun, but couldn't get a grip. Little Charlie pushed, but he was just 10. So they set off. It was not too cold there, but they finally found a house. They knocked. A woman warmly invited them in, offered them a phone and some tea and scones, or scones if you prefer. They visited until help arrived. A lot of years have passed. Charlie has likely forgotten. He is 75 now. His mother is in heaven, so I'm sure it's not uppermost in her mind. But that dear lady who invited them in never forgot. You see, the travelers stranded in the ditch that day were no less than Queen Elizabeth and 10-year-old Prince Charles, the boy who would be king. Something far grander has happened. Royalty has stooped to me and to you, knocked on our door. The Bible tells us that the child laid in the manger was God himself. The baby grew up and was nailed to a cross to pay the penalty for our sins. Every other religion is about doing. Do this, don't do that. There's a lot of doo-doo out there, my friends. Christianity is about what's been done. We don't try to get to God. He came to us. That's grace. It is by grace you have been saved through faith. It's a gift of God. It's not of works, because we just boast about that. Years ago, friends of ours lost their 2 sons, David and Michael, to muscular dystrophy. Just before Christmas, David asked a friend to wheel him through a mall on a Saturday afternoon. The Christmas season, surrounded by all these frenzied shoppers, David's friend stopped the wheelchair, and he bent over and he said, "David, if you had just one wish, what would it be? Picture this." David said, "Nothing. I've got Jesus. I've got a mom and dad who love me. And I've got friends like you to push me over the speed bumps." And smiling his awkward smile that friends and family had come to love, he said, "Besides, I know where I'm going, and there ain't no wheelchairs there." You know, I remember the day I knelt by my styrofoam bed. I was 5. Like David, asked Jesus to come into my life and change me. I just said, "Jesus, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I believe on you." If you haven't, you can pray that prayer too. It'll be the most important decision you ever make. The best Christmas gift you can get. The start of a new journey in which God promises His presence, His sovereignty, and His grace. And if you've prayed that prayer, connect with us, would you, here at Laugh Again. God bless you, my friend. Merry Christmas. Subscribe to Laugh Again TV. Subscribe to Laugh Again TV.